964 panes of greenhouse glass, cracked, clouded, sharp enough to open a hand through a leather glove. At the Briar Hollow liquidation auction, Vale was the only person who raised a bidder card. The contractors laughed. The scrap dealer would not even make an offer. 6 months later, when a 6-hour freeze turned every exposed field in Hollow Creek black, those same panes became the only roof in the valley with green plants still standing beneath it. But the frost was not the first thing that tried to break Mara's idea. The first thing was Mara herself. Mara was 37 that fall, running Willow Bend Farm with her 14-year-old son, Eli. The farm sat low in a narrow Tennessee valley where cold air settled after sunset and stayed there, trapped between two ridges until morning. Mara grew winter greens, late peppers, strawberries, and a young block of pear trees that had not yet developed the hardiness of the older orchard. She also kept 12 goats, mostly because no small farm survives on one income stream for long. The previous 2 years had left almost no margin. A spring windstorm had peeled the metal roof off the equipment shed. A fungal outbreak had wiped out half the strawberry runners. Then the farm truck lost its transmission 2 weeks before harvest. None of those disasters ended Willow Bend. Together, they did something quieter. They turned every new expense into an argument. Every bag of feed, every roll of irrigation tape, every repair. Mara did not go to the Briar Hollow auction looking for glass. She went for irrigation valves from a nursery that had closed after 41 years. The owner had no buyer, the heating system was obsolete, and the old glass houses cost more to dismantle than the land beneath them was worth. The valves sold early to a landscaping company with deeper pockets. Mara was already walking toward her truck when the auctioneer pointed to 9 pallets behind a chain-link fence. The glass had been removed in a hurry. Some panes were intact except for chipped corners. Some were split end to end. Others had turned milky from decades of mineral deposits and chemical fog. The auctioneer called them, "one lot as is. Buyer assumes all handling risk." Nobody moved. A roofing contractor shook his head. A scrap buyer looked once, then walked away. Ray Danner, who farmed squash 3 miles down the road from Mara, called from the back of the crowd, "You buying windows for a house with no walls?" A few people laughed. Mara looked through the fence. She did not see windows, she saw light. She saw a material that had failed at being whole but had not failed at being glass. It still admitted sunlight. It still slowed heat loss. And that valley had taken enough young plants from her over the years for one thought to become impossible to ignore. Broken was not the same as finished. Mara raised her card. The auctioneer blinked, then took the bid before she could change her mind. By noon, Willow Bend Farm owned 964 damaged panes and one new problem: how to move them without turning the flatbed into a box of knives. It took 2 trips, 4 moving blankets, a borrowed rack, and most of the remaining daylight. Ray drove past while Mara and Eli were unloading. He slowed long enough to call through the open window, "Careful, that pile looks expensive already." Mara did not answer. She had learned something about public jokes. Before you have proof, defending yourself only gives the joke more air. So she moved the pallets into the machine shed and started sorting. The first week was miserable. Even through heavy gloves, thin edges found skin. Mara cut her left palm badly enough to need 6 stitches. Eli wanted to stop for the day. Mara wrapped the hand, changed gloves, and kept working with the other one. Not because continuing was wise. Because stopping at that exact moment would have let pain make the decision for her. They built 5 categories. Clear panes with stable centers. Cracked panes that still held their shape. Small fragments with usable edges. Clouded panels for low-light walls. And scrap too brittle to trust. Eli developed a test of his own. He set each pane on a padded bench and tapped it lightly with a wooden dowel. A stable pane answered with a high, tight ring. A hidden fracture returned a dead sound that seemed to disappear into the glass. "This one looks better than it is," he said one evening. Mara held it toward the shed light and saw nothing. Eli tapped again. Dead. She rotated the pane a few degrees. A hairline crack appeared across the center, thin as a pencil mark. He was right. By the end of 10 days, the pile no longer looked like waste. It looked like inventory, not good inventory, not uniform, but measurable. 311 panes were sound enough for primary glazing. 246 could be used in smaller overlapping sections. 189 were clouded but structurally stable. The rest would never go above a living plant. Mara wrote every number in a spiral notebook. That notebook would matter later. At the time, it mostly kept hope from becoming fantasy. She still did not know how to build with any of it. The county extension office gave her the name of Gideon Rowe. Gideon was 72 and had spent nearly 50 years building commercial greenhouses before plastic film and imported structures pushed most regional glass work out of the market. Arthritis had forced him to retire. He came to Willow Bend expecting to inspect a dangerous hobby. He arrived in an old brown pickup, walked past Mara without much greeting, and spent 20 minutes examining the sorted stacks. He checked thickness, edge condition, surface pitting, the direction of the cracks. Then he picked up one of the panes Mara had marked primary. "Who taught you to sort?" "Nobody." Gideon looked toward Eli. "He found the bad center cracks faster than I did." Gideon tapped the pane once with a fingernail. A clean note came back. His expression changed, not approval, interest. "Most people ask whether glass is broken," he said. "Wrong question." He set the pane down. "The useful question is where it is still allowed to carry stress." That sentence changed the project. Gideon explained that a large, cracked sheet could not be trusted the way a new pane could. But smaller sections could overlap like shingles. So water shed downward and no single pane carried the full load. He explained that glass needed room to move as temperature changed. He explained that the frame mattered as much as the glazing. And he explained that Mara's real weapon against frost would not be the glass. It would be the heat stored behind it. Stone, water, packed earth, anything that could absorb warmth during the day and return it slowly after dark. "Glass buys time," Gideon told her at the kitchen table, drawing on the back of a feed invoice. "Thermal mass decides whether the time is enough." Mara sketched a low, south-facing shelter instead of a full-height greenhouse. It would cover a little under half an acre. The late pepper rose, winter greens, strawberry crowns, and the youngest pear trees. A low roof meant less air to keep warm. A steep south angle meant better winter sun. The north wall would be built from stacked fieldstone and black water tanks. The design looked simple on paper. The first test frame proved it was not. Mara built a 6-foot section from straight lumber and fastened the glass tightly so wind could not move it. The first cold night dropped 28 degrees in 5 hours. At dawn, 2 panes had split. One cracked from a corner clip. The other broke almost perfectly through the middle. Mara stood in the frozen grass with coffee cooling in her hand and felt the full weight of what everyone at the auction had assumed. Maybe the glass really was finished. Maybe she had spent money, time, and blood proving the obvious. Gideon arrived before lunch. He did not blame the panes. He pointed to the clips. "You trapped them." The wood contracted. The glass did not contract at the same rate. The rigid frame transferred the movement into the weakest points. The failure was not random. It was designed into the test section. That made it worse for 1 minute. Then it made it useful. Mara rebuilt the frame with thin cork pads, flexible rubber strips cut from discarded dairy hose, and slotted clips that held the glass without locking it in place. The next cold night came 3 days later. The rebuilt section held. Not one new crack, That was the first proof. Small, ugly, unmistakable. Mara and Eli spent the next 11 weeks building what Gideon started calling the quilt house. The name came from the roof. No two sections matched. Clear panes overlapped clouded ones. Narrow strips filled spaces between wider panels. Chipped corners disappeared beneath the edges above them. From the county road, the roof looked patched together from 100 different mistakes. Up close, every overlap had a job. Mara milled rough cedar from a wind-damaged stand at the back of the property. Eli measured roof angles and marked clip spacing. They leveled the lowest edge by hand. They moved 12 tons of fieldstone from piles that had been growing beside the vegetable rows for years. The stones became a 3-foot thermal wall along the north side. Behind them, Mara installed 14 recycled food-grade water tanks painted matte black. During daylight, the wall and tanks absorbed sun. After dark, they released it. Slowly, not enough to create summer. Enough, Gideon believed, to keep plant tissue above the killing line during a hard radiational frost. They added simple flap vents made from salvaged barn hinges. They sealed each joint with new glazing compound because Gideon refused to compromise on the one material that kept the whole system from leaking air. Salvage the thing that can still do a job, he said. Buy the thing whose job is to keep every other failure out. Mara wrote that down too. The project consumed nearly every spare hour. There were nights when Eli fell asleep over algebra at the kitchen table, while Mara was still outside setting clips by headlamp. There were mornings when goat feed came before breakfast, and breakfast came after the school bus. There were afternoons when a pane shattered during placement, and 10 minutes of work became an hour of cleanup. And there were people who kept talking. Ray Danner repeated the house with no walls joke at the feed store until the joke lost most of its shape. Then the tone changed. Trucks began slowing on the county road. People stopped laughing long enough to count the roof sections. A few started asking questions they pretended were not questions. How much wind do you think that thing takes? What happens under snow? You really expect those water tanks to matter? Mara answered only the practical ones. She had no interest in winning an argument before the weather had voted. The first test came in late September. The forecast called for 31 degrees, not a killing freeze, enough to measure. Mara placed 4 thermometers inside the quilt house and 2 outside. At sunrise, the lowest outside reading was 30 degrees. The coldest point inside was 38. 8 degrees, not a miracle, a margin. The kind of margin that saves blossoms, roots, and soft green tissue. Gideon looked at the notebook and nodded once. Now finish the weak corners. That warning nearly saved the crop. Nearly. 3 weeks later, a northern air mass moved down faster than forecast models expected. The Regional Weather Service used the phrase, destructive early freeze. The temperature was expected to fall into the low 20s and remain below freezing for 5 to 7 hours. Most farms in Hollow Creek still had crops in the ground. Ray had 8 acres of late squash. A family near the river had a pumpkin field booked for 2 more weekends of school visits. A retired teacher named Joan Keeler still had heirloom tomatoes contracted to a grocery in Knoxville. Nobody had built protection for a freeze this early. Mara had. But protection was not the same as certainty. The afternoon before the cold arrived, she and Gideon walked the full structure. Every clip, every seam, every vent. They filled the water tanks to capacity and closed the flaps before sunset. Eli checked the thermometer batteries and wrote the first outside reading at 5 p.m. 47 degrees. At 8, it was 35. At 10:30, 29. Mara sat inside the entrance with a folding chair, a thermos, and a lantern. The roof clicked softly as temperature moved through hundreds of unequal panes. Each sound made her look up. At midnight, the outside thermometer read 25, inside 36. At 1:40 in the morning, outside dropped to 22, inside held at 33. 1 degree above the line Mara had marked in red across the notebook page. She walked the aisles. Pepper leaves trembled in the moving air. Water condensed along the lower glass. The stone wall felt faintly warm compared with the floor. The system was working. Then Eli said, "Mom, Station 3 is falling." The thermometer near the northwest corner had dropped 2 degrees in less than 10 minutes. Mara crossed the structure with the lantern. At first, she saw nothing. The joint looked sealed. Then she removed one glove and ran her bare fingers along the frame. Cold air touched the side of her hand. A seam behind a support block had pulled open. Not wide enough. Mara packed it with spare insulation and pressed a temporary strip over the gap. The temperature stabilized. But several pepper plants nearest the corner had already taken damage. Their outer leaves curled dark before dawn. The quilt house had not been perfect. That mattered, because perfect stories are easy to doubt. Tested systems show you exactly where they almost failed. At 6:18, the sky turned gray over Hollow Creek. The outside thermometer still read 23. Inside, Station 3 had recovered to 32. The other stations held between 34 and 36. Mara and Eli stood at the entrance as daylight reached the valley. Beyond the glass, the exposed pepper rows were black. The unprotected portion of the strawberry field had collapsed. Frost covered the grass in a white skin. Inside, the green stood upright. The strawberry crowns under glass were firm. The young pear leaves had survived. Only the plants near the leaking corner showed injury. By noon, the rest of the valley knew. The difference could be seen from the road. Black field, green shelter, black orchard edge, green rows under fractured glass. Ray lost most of his squash. The pumpkin farm canceled its remaining visits. Joan Keeler's tomato contract disappeared overnight. The freeze did not make Mara feel triumphant. It made her busy. She helped Ray sort what might still be marketable. She gave Joan 2 crates of protected tomatoes to help cover part of the grocery order. She loaned frostcloth to the family by the river for the next cold night. When Mara told Gideon she felt almost ashamed of the contrast, he shook his head. "You did not cause their loss. No. You did the work before anybody knew whether it would pay." Mara looked through the patched roof. Gideon added, "That is not luck. It is just close enough to luck that you should stay humble." The saved crop changed Willow Bend's winter. Late peppers, greens, and strawberries reached market when regional supply had collapsed. Prices rose. Mara did not become wealthy. She paid off the truck repair, replaced the equipment shed roof, restored an emergency account that had been empty for almost 2 years. And the young pear block kept a full season of growth it might otherwise have lost. The first serious outside visitor arrived 9 days after the freeze. Dr. Lena Ortiz, an agricultural engineer from the State Extension Service, spent 7 hours at Willow Bend. She inspected clip spacing, measured air leakage, compared inside and outside temperature logs, checked roof load assumptions, and examined the damaged corner before she looked at the successful sections. Mara gave her every record: material costs, build hours, temperature readings, broken panes, replacement clips. Even the 6 stitches in her hand were noted in the safety section. Lena's report was careful. The quilt house was not a commercial greenhouse. It had not been tested under heavy snow. Its irregular glass required strict sorting, edge protection, and skilled installation. One corner had leaked. A small number of plants had been damaged. But the thermal performance was real. The structure had maintained an average interior advantage of more than 11 degrees through the coldest part of the event. Its material cost was less than 1/5 of the least expensive commercial system Lena used for comparison. That report made the laughter disappear. It also brought Daniel Mercer to the farm. Daniel owned Mercer Protected Agriculture, a regional company that sold engineered greenhouse and frost control systems to large growers. He arrived in a clean silver SUV and walked around the quilt house twice before speaking. "You built a strong story," he said. Mara looked at him. "I built a shelter." Daniel smiled as though the distinction did not matter. He offered to buy the design rights. His company would standardize the system, replace the salvage materials with manufactured components, and market a Vale modular frost house across 3 states. Mara would receive a royalty. The number was larger than any check Willow Bend had seen in years. For one evening, she considered it seriously. Then she read the draft agreement again. The marketing language called the system simple. The installation plan removed on-site testing. The standard package used fixed panel sizes. The training section was 6 pages long. Gideon's lessons had filled 3 notebooks. Mara called Daniel the next morning. "The roof is not the design," she told him. "The design is knowing which glass can carry stress, where the ground holds cold, how the wind crosses a field, and which seam has to be checked twice." Daniel said those variables could be controlled by manufacturing. "Some can," Mara said. "Not the field." The deal ended. 2 weeks later, Mercer sales representatives began contacting farmers who had called Mara for advice. They described the quilt house as an unlicensed experiment. A one-night success. A structure made from hazardous salvage. The claims were not entirely false. That made them effective. Mara did not answer with advertising. She answered with another test. She invited Lena Ortiz back with independent sensors. For 6 weeks, they recorded temperature, humidity, air leakage, and structural movement through 5 more cold nights. They documented the repaired corner. They documented one cracked roof panel that failed after a sudden warm afternoon. They documented the replacement method. They documented what the system could do and what it could not. The second report was stronger because it included failure. The quilt house was not safe for careless copying. It was not suitable for every site. It required training. But when properly sorted, flex-mounted, sealed, and paired with thermal mass, reclaimed greenhouse glass could provide meaningful low-cost frost protection for small farms. Mercer's calls stopped. Mara's phone did not. She refused to turn Willow Bend into a factory. Instead, she created a 3-day field workshop with Gideon and Lena. Day 1 was glass, how to inspect it, how to tap it, how to reject it. Day 2 was land, slope, cold pockets, wind, sun angle. Day 3 was building, flexible mounts, overlap, ventilation, thermal mass, emergency repairs. Every farmer left with a site-specific plan, not a universal kit. The first complete project went to Tessa and Miguel Alvarez, a young couple running 6 acres of vegetables on exposed ground west of Knoxville. They had lost nearly all their fall income in the same freeze. They could not afford Mercer's system. They could not afford another unprotected season either. Their land was different from Mara's. Stronger wind, steeper slope, less fieldstone. More access to discarded restaurant oil drums that could be cleaned and filled with water. So their shelter looked different. The principles stayed the same. Test the material, read the ground, build for movement, store daylight, see cold twice. The following October, the Alvarez farm took a 27-degree frost. Their outside kale burned at the edges. The protected crop did not. Miguel called Mara just after sunrise. It held. Mara could hear him walking as he spoke, breathing hard, laughing once, then stopping. It actually held. Mara looked through her own patched roof. "No," she said. "You held it together. The glass just did the job you gave it." Gideon kept teaching. His granddaughter, Riley, began joining the workshops with a notebook. Eli took over most of the thermometer calibration and site measurements. By 16, He could identify a cold pocket from slope and tree line before Mara unpacked an instrument. The knowledge Gideon thought would disappear with the old glasshouse trade began moving again. Not through a factory, through hands, through notebooks, through mistakes documented instead of hidden. Within 3 years, 11 small farms had built some version of the quilt house. No two were identical. All 11 used reclaimed glazing. 9 used water for thermal mass. 2 used stone-filled earth walls. Everyone had a record of rejected glass, repairs, and temperature performance. Across those farms, the structures protected more than 30 acres of high-risk crops through multiple frost events. The saved harvests did not make headlines. They made loan payments. They covered seed orders. They kept workers employed 2 extra weeks. They gave small farms one more margin between a bad night and a bad year. Ray Danner never apologized for laughing at the auction. One afternoon, he stopped beside Mara's fence and stared at the roof. Sunlight moved through the old cracks and laid bright lines across the plants below. "I thought once glass broke, that was the end of what it could do," he said. Mara checked a clip near the entrance. "Sometimes breaking changes the load." Ray nodded toward the repaired northwest corner, now marked with a small brass tag. The tag carried the date of the freeze and 4 words Eli had chosen. Checked twice after failure. Ray read it. Then he asked, "You taking any more farms for that workshop?" Mara looked down the road. A pickup waited at the gate. Another grower had come to ask about an exposed strawberry field before winter. She closed her notebook and started walking. 964 panes had arrived at Willow Bend as one rejected pile. Some were too weak. Some were too cloudy. Some failed after she trusted them. The rest survived because Mara never asked them to be new again. She asked what they could still carry. Then she tested the answer, again and again, until a whole valley could see the difference between something damaged and something useless. The panes were broken. The proof was not.